Good morning. It's Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing. We're live on LinkedIn and live on Facebook today, and very excited to be coming back to you again with another installment of Social Media Pie. And this is basically my series where I am interviewing different folks from around the world and just kind of having great discussions, because I think, the folks I'm interviewing, these are very inspiring people who are informing and educating all of you. So we're going to get started here in just a second. Hello, just wanted to say good morning. If you are watching this live, I would love it if you could please take a moment and just, let's see, I think the like icons would be over here. So if you can give this video a like, and then if you could also drop a comment below and let me know where in the world you're watching from. Okay, I would love it if you could do that. Take a minute. And even if you are watching this in playback, maybe you're watching this a little bit later in the day, still leave a comment. Let me know where in the world you're watching from. I do my best to try to respond to all the comments. And what I'm going to do right now is look at my phone and see who's online with us, because I'm going to give you guys some shout outs. So I am in Metro Detroit, and we are having a beautiful sunny day here. And I was just talking to Jan before the show, and she's actually in Chicago, and she's having some beautiful weather as well. So let's see. So Shauna, nice to see you again. Shauna, I just saw you yesterday at Inform, and great to see you online. I see a couple other folks that have liked the video. Don Habrick, I see that you're one of those people. I haven't seen you for a while. Hope you and Ruth Ann are doing well. And I see a couple other names in the background too. And I'll periodically pop into my LinkedIn to see who else is joining. But now what I'd like to do is I'm going to invite my special guest for today. Hey, Jan, how you doing today?
I'm well. How are you, Brenda? It's a sunny day here in Chicago.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you're about an hour behind, right? It's a little after 8 o'clock in the morning there.
That's right.
Great. And what are you doing in Chicago this week, Jan?
Two things today. I'm getting ready to do a podcast recording session in about an hour, actually.
Oh, great. So getting ready for where are you doing that podcast from?
Actually in a hotel room, because the podcast studio is completely mobile, and I can take it to an office or I can take it to a hotel room. And yeah, I learned how to set it up, and off we go.
Awesome. Well, I'm thrilled to have you here today, Jan. And when I reached out to Jan to ask her for the opportunity to join me on LinkedIn Live, I said, let's think of a topic, something we could talk about. You can pick anything. And I love the topic that she chose. And it's really kind of Jan's journey. It's leaving the corporate world and reinventing yourself in your 50s and launching a podcast. So, so thrilled, Jan, to be hearing your story. But before I turn the floor over to you to tell us a little bit about that, I just wanted to share with those that are listening in right now how Jan and I met. And it was actually through I believe it's through a network connection, if I'm not mistaken, Jan. And I think we met when you were right at the beginning of this process, right, of starting your business.
That's right. Right at the very beginning.
Do you remember who it was that introduced us and how you first came across me?
It was Heather Coleman Voss, and it was at an event at the She Hive. Okay. And she had brought something up on the screen to talk about LinkedIn profiles.
Oh, very
and I was very interested in obviously perfecting my LinkedIn profile as I was thinking about this transition. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I reached out to you, and here we are.
Right. I remember we met at a really nice Starbucks in Birmingham, and they had one of those fancy barista bars. It was like, it's one of the newer rollouts in Starbucks, and you and I both.
It's the Reserve, darling. It's in the bubble.
That's what it was. Yeah, and I've got my coffee everywhere I go, so I got to have my coffee. Are you a coffee drinker, Jan, or do you drink tea, or what do you drink?
I am a massive tea drinker. I drink tea by the gallon, and I put milk in it because I'm a Brit, and that's what we do.
I was just going to ask the next questions, which is, where are you originally from? Because I think we can tell a little bit of an accent here. You have a beautiful accent, and so you're from the UK originally, then, right?
I'm from Wales.
From Wales,
and I get a little bit like. And people say, are you English? No, I'm not. I am very, very Welsh. And people know that because when I go through my keynotes on stage, I actually put the Welsh flag with the dragon up on stage with me.
Oh,
and one of the reasons I'm in Chicago today, I'm going to the British consulate later. There's a reception for Welsh Day. It was St. David's Day on Sunday, patron saint of Wales. Okay. So there's a piece of information that you'll probably never use ever again.
But you never know. There might be somebody watching this right now or watching it in the playback or listening later who's like, oh, I know exactly what that is. And, you kind of feel like this immediate connection with that person too. So
yeah, John Asperian knows because he lives in Wales. wheels.
Yeah, I'm not sure if John's on yet. I'll check the comments here in a minute and see if he's joining us, but I'll definitely tag him in the mentions here later. So Jan, so let's talk about this. So tell us a little bit about, you've started your own company, Gravitas Detroit, and you've been, I want to say it's been over a year now, right? Year and a half,
Yeah.
almost 2 years.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a little while. So let's, kind of jump in here. So tell us a little bit about kind of your journey.
Okay, well, I'm a farmer's daughter from Wales, and I came over to this country 30 years ago. I started in the automotive industry, and I loved it. From the second I set foot on the shop floor, the smell of the oils and the coolant and the metal and all the things that you wouldn't imagine a young girl would love, I just loved it. So I devoted my life to this career, which was really supply chain in automotive. And they sent me over to Muncie, Indiana, which was a shock, actually, for Muncie, Indiana, more than it was for me. Mm-hmm. And it was a very interesting journey, but I loved the automotive industry and manufacturing. So my career progressed, and then I had my sights on this idea of being a VP in a major tier 1 major automotive supplier company. Okay. And that was my dream in my head, as we all have these ideas, this vision of what we want our life to be. I was going to be a career woman, and that was it. I was on a path, and I was bound and determined. And my career was wonderful. I had a great career, worked for a lot of great companies, and it culminated in this VP of global supply chain for a major tier 1 company. So I had achieved it, right? I had achieved this.
You were there. You got it.
I got it. Right? It was lovely. And then right on top of that, Automotive News, I got on their top 100 leading women list, which was a huge accomplishment. Such an honor. I felt great. I was living in Birmingham where I wanted to live. I had my daughter in the school I wanted to be in. Life was great, but something wasn't right. And you look back and go, well, how can this be? Because this is something I've been working for my entire life. So when you have these desires to be in the C-suite, be careful what you wish for, because here I am. And part of my job, I absolutely loved, but part of it, I felt my soul just draining, the life force just draining out of me. There were a lot of meetings that, quite frankly, didn't inspire me. And I am happiest when I am inspiring people, whether it's from a stage, in a conference room, working one-on-one, helping people, break through those limiting beliefs and seeing them really see their potential and making changes and moving forward. That's when I'm happiest.
That's like when you light up from within, right? When you're,
yes.
It's not, I think we have some similarities in our past too, kind of the corporate experiences I had, and I'm grateful for all of those experiences too, but there's some parts of the corporate experience I don't miss at all. And, somewhere it's just, you think about those endless meetings that you sit around and there's action items and you're not making progress. And then I think about other times like you, where, there's been mentorship opportunities and people that I feel that I've learned from and that I've inspired as well. So this was this kind of a inkling that grew and then it kind of just developed into something that you couldn't ignore, or how did you make that leap?
So I started to think about what do I really love to do?
Yeah.
And so many times we need to do that. We all need to do this exercise. And that is to really sit back and think about what is a perfect day? What is a perfect day today? And what is a perfect day 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and 30 years from now? And I started to think about retirement, which I couldn't believe I was actually at that point in my life, right? Yeah. And I could have stayed in this job and it would have been wonderful. And I could have, cruised into retirement. Lots of security, if there is such a thing as job security. I was in a good place.
Yeah.
I love leadership. And then I have these 2 young women on my team, and I will give them a shout out because I called them out in Automotive News in front of 700 people. Danielle Leone and Leslie Badnaz. And they're very, very inspiring young women. And what they did is they kept saying, you've got.
All right, I think we're having a little bit of an audio hiccup right now.
Start a podcast.
Sorry, Jan. I think we're having a little bit of an audio hiccup. And I know we're joining Jan. We're both on Wi-Fi, so we may have. If we're experiencing that, guys, just hang tight. We'll get through it. It seems like it's a little bubble. It's kind of like air turbulence. If you've ever had that on an airline, it bubbles for a second and then it comes back up again. So let's give this a try here, Jan.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Are you better? Are we better?
I think
Are we
we're
back?
good. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it pushed you.
And, the one thing that I talk about a lot is reverse mentoring. So I really listened to what these young women had to say. And I would give these keynote presentations as part of my corporate role.
Yeah.
And people loved it. And I thought, wow, I really love doing this. So then you have to think, well, but how could you possibly walk away from a corporate job like that, right? And let's be perfectly honest here, the compensation package, right?
Mm-hmm.
To walk away from that when you're a single mom with a mortgage on a house in Birmingham and
Right.
start a business and take your income to zero overnight. Who does that?
Yeah, and you've heard of the term golden handcuffs, right, Jan?
Yeah.
So I was explaining this to my son the other day, and I was saying, how a lot of people just stay in that same job, for years and years and years because they are kind of chained to it, and they don't want to leave the security, but they're kind of a little dead inside. They're not working, for a job that they love anymore. They're just working, and it's sad to see, but it's so inspiring to see someone. And like you with your story, you knew what you wanted to do. You knew you wanted to try a different path, and it does take a leap of faith, right? To go from, like you said, income, stability, benefits to zero overnight, and believing in yourself has to be a big part of that, right?
Yeah, and to do something you've never done before. I mean, starting a business, I have no idea. I know supply chain for an automotive company very well, but running a business as an entrepreneur, I had absolutely no idea. Yeah. So, a couple of things happened. I really felt like, you use this term, your authentic self. I really felt like I stepped into who I really was more and more. And, a couple of things, these two young women helped me enormously. And then Dietrich came into my life, and I tell people that he gave me permission to be myself. So now I'm thinking, I don't want to fit this mold anymore. I don't want to fit this corporate mold. And I just want to do what I absolutely love to do. And then I had to figure out what that was. And I thought, okay, then I love keynote speaking. So then I formed a business, as you know, called Griffiths Detroit. Yeah. And it is all focused around authentic leadership, around making sure that people can do really what I did. And that is to step into their authentic who you are, because that's how you get great performance. Don't waste time on toxic politics and trying to fit a role. Just get in there, give everything you've got, have a great experience at work, and then get out and have a great experience in your home life. That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have to just kind of jump into Jan, because when I'm going to pull this up on screen right now here too. So when you launched your business, I mean, we were talking about this. Whoops, let me play back up on screen here. When we were talking about this before the show started today, I mean, I was kind of saying, most people, when they start their own business, they kind of take baby steps. And I was even sharing, like, I had a logo, which wasn't very good. And then I modified the logo, and then I modified it again. And then I finally, like, on a third or fourth version, reached out to somebody I knew who was an experienced graphic designer to help me. And you, in comparison, I mean, you went through this process of tapping into your network, finding experts to help you with website design and creating a logo and an identity package, and getting things really to a point where I think your brand is so well polished and so refined and succinct and clear, and it's inspiring. I mean, anytime I see things from you online and any social network they pop up, I'm always like pulling up, and when you started, you didn't have the podcast, right? That was something that you just launched recently. So when you first started your business, it was really just focused on launching your website, the speaking business, kind of getting the word out there about yourself. And then, so tell us, how from that point, how did you get to the point where you're at now? And you recently launched your podcast. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, as I think back at my corporate career, I've always loved leadership. I love studying leadership. I love looking at how people behave, the body language, what they say, what they do, the strategies that they use to get things done. And I want to spread the word of authentic leadership. I want people to hear from other leaders what great authentic leadership is all about. And I also want it to be cross-industry. So I don't want it to be just very narrowly focused on automotive. It is very much, I mean, it does have an automotive bias, of course it does, but I want
your network, you have a lot of connections in automotive from your background, right?
Right. And leadership is leadership. People are people. A good leader is a good leader. It doesn't matter what widget they're making, what company or industry they're in. And I thought that it would have helped me so much if I could have heard these people talking as I developed my journey. It would have given me the confidence to give myself permission to really lead the way that I knew was the right way to lead. So I thought the best way to do that would be a podcast, because I started listening to a podcast, maybe about 2 years ago. I would listen to a few, and now, I'm really into it. But I would say less than a year ago, I knew nothing about how to produce a podcast.
Right.
I knew absolutely
You were a
nothing.
consumer of the podcast, but you weren't a producer, right?
Right. So like I did with my business, I threw myself into it, and here we are today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm going to pull up on screen here too. So for those of you who are podcast viewers or listeners, like if you will, Jan, I think you're on all the major podcast outlets, right? iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher. And I know you do a really good job too of merchandising these. So I even love how you kind of do the behind the scenes photo, and it's I can see you, and then you can see the person's head, and you're kind of teasing who you're going to be interviewing without revealing that person. So you're building up a little bit of that kind of momentum going into the interview. And I just like, as a fellow marketer, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. She's creating this demand and this interest in the series. And I'm always trying to like guess, well, who is that in there? And I wonder who this person might be. So I've really enjoyed it. And you recently held a launch party. Was it the Partner House in Birmingham?
Yeah, Partner House. It's a co-working space I work at.
So it's a really great facility, and it was a lot of fun kind of reuniting with some folks from my network. And I bumped into people, I'm like, oh, Jan too. And we're all like, fans of the Jan Griffiths fan club, and we've got our t-shirts and it's just really amazing. So let's talk about, the podcast journey. You said, a year ago, you were really just listening to podcasts. You started to create your own. So tell me, the why I think that you did this was because you were trying to bring in leadership insights from other people into kind of your space, share with your listening audience. So now let's talk about what you learned, going through the process, and maybe, talk to me about where you were with your very first podcast, and then things that you've learned and experienced along the way that have helped you to kind of refine the process even more.
Okay. Well, one of the things with a podcast, is audio quality.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about audio quality. I mean, I could spell the word audio, that was about it. But again, I'm fortunate enough to have Dietrich, my life partner in my life, who is an audio zealot. He's been working with audio for many, many years in his music career. So I was very grateful to have his expertise and his guidance. But there's so much to think about, and it's the silly little things. So the very first podcast we did was actually in a hotel room in Chicago.
Okay.
And so you book a suite, right? Because it's weird. You can't have somebody coming into your hotel room. That's weird,
in your
right?
bedroom,
So you book
right?
a suite, so you have like a right. That's weird. So you've got to have like a
here. Let me move
like
my bathrobe out of the way, and we'll get you set up, right? It's like we had a little bit of a hiccup there. This will make for fun later, Jan, because the expression you had on your face when the connection froze is priceless, really.
Is it?
we'll get it through.
So now my podcast studio is completely mobile, so that I can go and interview, somebody in their office or in a hotel or conference room, wherever we need to be.
Okay.
So we get into the room, and we have the suite set up, and then we look at it, and then we realize that, right, well, the coffee table is only so high. Well, the mic stands aren't tall enough, because the mic stands are designed for a conference room table. So now how am I gonna? So there we are trying to angle these chairs and then set these mic stands up, and then figure out how to do it. And then you have to think about the room, because you cannot be in a room that's got a concrete floor, because a lot of these trendy boutique hotels now will have a concrete floor and be very sort of minimalistic approach. Bad. Can't do that. You need carpet, you need curtains, drapes, blinds. It's the audio quality that you have to think about. You can't have any sound bouncing off the walls. Look at me, I actually sound like I know what I'm talking about.
No, I'm like, it's amazing as you're describing this, because like in the beginning, you probably wouldn't think about any of these things. But then as you're going through the process, and you're going through probably the post-production, and you're trying to clean up audio quality and you could probably hear the difference when you're in a room that's all concrete and no curtains or anything. It's very echoey. And I know there's like some podcast studios here in Metro Detroit where you go into the room and it's like, I think about you walk in the room and it's like egg carton foam wall to wall. And I'm always like, why do they do that? It's very weird, but it does help with the audio quality. So yeah, you've gotten like your crash course in podcasting by going through, right? And every new podcast you're learning probably more.
Oh, I learn more and more. So here's a tip. The best place for a podcast when you're on the road is a hotel like the Residence Inn. And here's why. It's the height of the table. Well, it depends on your mic stands, right? Maybe let me see if I can spin this around here. I don't know. Can you see the
table in the background? So are all the
see?
tables the same height at every Residence Inn you've been at? They're all
So you see, it's like a dining room table, so it's higher, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the mic stands are at the perfect height. But if you're dealing with a little coffee table, forget it. And then it doesn't help when your podcast host, i.e. me, is swinging on the chair and the chair is hitting the coffee table. Yeah. And that's another thing with guests. I always have to tell them, because like me, when I talk with my hands. Yeah. And then people will, slam their hand on the table and that vibration will shoot straight up the mic arm and it's just awful. Or they'll tap their foot on the table. I had one earlier this week and he was tapping his foot on the floor, and that's another problem. So it's all these little things that you have to
when it's happening during the interview, or is it like in the playback where you're like, oh, it sounds like he was tapping his foot? I mean, when do you capture it? And then if it's during the interview, do you say something? Do you say, hey, Brenda, stop tapping your foot?
So in the beginning, I didn't know it was a problem because you don't know what you don't know, right? So Dietrich would tell me, and he's sort of training me, right? So he would say, don't do this, don't do that. Make sure people stay a fist distance away from the mic. Don't get them too far from the mic. Okay. So all these things, I've had to learn, and then I have to tape the room noise before I start recording. Okay. So there's always a heater or a blower or a fan or electric noise or something. So I have to record a minute of that so that he has that, so he can pull that out. Yeah. All these things you learn. So here we are. I'm learning every day, but I am loving it, and I'm learning so much from these guests as well. The intent is to get the message out there to other people, but I'm learning so much, and they're great people and they're willing to share.
Yeah. And that's got to be really inspiring for you in a bit of, it's, and many of these people are people that you know, right? Or are you meeting new people by being introduced and people saying, hey, you should have this person on the podcast, or what's that been like?
All of the above. I mean, obviously I started with my network, but there's a few people that have come in that I didn't know very well. Yeah. And I like to start, if we record at my house, then we always have a cup of tea before we start.
That's nice.
It depends where we are. But I love that it's mobile, right? Because I can go anywhere and it's more convenient for the guests.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. And I like I said, I love the behind the scenes photos that you're always showing kind of like where you're at. And I even saw like this morning, I went on, I think it was on Instagram, and on Griffiths Detroit, I'll see if I can pull it up on screen here. On Instagram, I saw that you had posted a photo of, getting ready for today. And I'm like, getting ready for today. I'm like, well, she's coming on my LinkedIn Live. So I wonder if she's got like a crew of people that are doing this now. I'm going to pull this up on screen here. And so this is your crew. Right
there's right? a crew. You're looking at the crew.
This is it, right? This is it. I was like, no, it's seriously. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the keys when you are self-employed independent consultant, no longer working for a company. It's you want to look bigger than you are. You want to look more established than you are. And, all of the above for you, Jan. I'm like, I think you've got a crew of people. You've got a team that you're working with. I mean, the podcast looks like you have many people that are coming with you. And I'm sure there's an entourage or a tour bus or something. I don't know. It's just, I've just been really, it's really inspiring watching you and, seeing you go through the process. And I've enjoyed watching the podcast as well. So it's been a lot of fun. So let's do this now. You mentioned tea. So let's take a not tea break or coffee break, if you will. And I want to kind of see who's online with us, if that's okay, Jan. We're going to pop over into the comments. So we're up to 153 people that are viewing us right now online. And let's see who we can say hi to. Jennifer Landers, who's joining us from Michigan. Hey, Jennifer. We have Kiana Mann, who says hello to you, Jan. Does she know you? Do you know Kiana? Kiana Mann?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, she says hi.
Absolutely.
And
hey, OESA.
OESA. There you go. I think I know some folks from there too. Shauna has a question for you, Jan, and she wants to know who was on your support team when you started your reinvention journey, and how important is that support team?
Support team. I mean, there's no support team. I would say friends and family, really.
Yeah.
You know, when I made the decision, it was Dietrich and then my daughter Gwen, and I talked to both of them about what I was about to do because our lives were going to change.
Right.
And then my friends, and then trusted advisors, you know, colleagues. And when I would tell people about what I wanted to do, they said, you were born for this.
Yeah.
Nobody said don't do
Right.
this. Not even my financial advisor, right, which is really scary. And he said, no, you were meant to do this.
Yeah.
But then I started off very carefully because a new business. And the very first person I brought on board was actually Brenda. And then Chris Cruzeda for the website design.
Right.
He was absolutely brilliant and got a sense of me right from day one. And I think that's it, actually. And then that's where I started, because step one is to get over yourself and get out there on social media, which Brenda helped me with. Because I thought my voice still had to be very much in the corporate mold. And she taught me that you don't know, it's your voice now, put it out there. So that was really important. I think that's it, really.
Yeah. So let's talk about that too, because I think, the social media part, that was a little bit of a probably a learning experience for you going through that process, because when you're a corporate employee, whenever you're speaking as a representative of the organization. So you're really the organization speaking, and you have to really be conscientious of things that you say, and who you're interacting with, and even things like dress code and things, because everything is you're representing the organization and you're helping to contribute to that brand, or it could come off as you're not supporting kind of the brand of the organization. So when you do go out on social as an entrepreneur, you're going out with yourself, and it is very raw, right? And what was that experience like? And then how did you kind of work through those issues of getting comfortable with the uncomfortable?
Being judged, fear of looking stupid. You just got to get over it.
Right.
And I've spent so many years of my life in that corporate mold. I would never have put my voice out there when I worked in a corporate job the way I do today. Never.
Yeah.
And because I felt I had to fit this mold. So you get confidence, and then you start, you a little bit more, you add a few more comments to other people's posts. And then, as you saw me, Brenda, you had my access and gave me some confidence to actually start to put some posts out there. And now, now look at me, right? I'm demon out there. I'm on there all the bloody time. I'm addicted to it. And
I don't know if I'd say demon. I think inspiration is, it's, I mean, what I'm seeing with you, I just love the boldness in your approach. And even, I'm going to pull this up on screen right now. If you look at your LinkedIn profile, the photograph that you use for there, you have some personality in your photograph. I mean, when you think about your typical corporate executive headshot, it's the, straightforward framed, wearing a suit, very restricted, and your personality. And I just love the fact that you have something that's a little bit different in there, and it's your true authentic self. I mean, when I first met you, I had no question that your business was going to be a success. I was like so excited to come along for that part of the journey, because I was like, wow, she's just going to be amazing. I can just tell she's got that energy to her. And it looks like we're having
these photos. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. It looked like it was a little bit of a hiccup there, but I think it caught up. So go ahead.
Story, because it's kind of amusing. So I was so wrapped up in my corporate identity, right? And this is going back many, many years. This is more probably 10 years ago. And I was starting to date again after a divorce. And I had the eHarmony profile, right? And I had the photo. And my girlfriend said to me, good God, she said, you're trying to get a date. You're not trying to be president of SAE. What sort of photograph is that? And that is my dear friend, Alison Emmerich. And, you'll have to tag her in this. So she helped me realize that actually, you think you have to be in this sort of this mold and fit this mold, so much so that I was afraid to even, change it up for a dating website, gosh.
Yeah. Is this Alison up on screen? Did I find the right one?
That's Alison, yes.
Okay, there you go. Very cool. Well, let's see. I think there's a couple there.
So thank you, Alison.
Yeah, I think we had a couple other comments and folks that are joining us. So I'll say hi to those as well. So Ruth Ann joining us from St. Augustine, Florida. Caroline, originally from the UK. Thank you for joining us this morning, Caroline. Carrie Lazat is giving me some feedback. Blue sweater looking good, and I like the addition of the home decor. I actually moved my desk around, Carrie, so I'm strategically moving things around here. Thank you. Hey, Courtney. Courtney Lauerdane was on with me earlier this week. She's watching live as well. Nice to see you. Caroline, a lot of similarities to your story with you, Jan. So do you know Caroline Eller, Jan? If you're not connected with her yet, maybe it might be good to connect with each other.
I will do that.
Ray Four is joining us from Namibia. So thank you. We have some international folks on as well. Arsalan joining us. Aaron coming from India. Camille Tyler from Austin, Texas. We have Shah who says hello. Hello, Shah. Miriam from Cologne. We have Ramazan joining us. And let's see, we've got a lot of comments coming in here. Amjad said hello and good night. So I'm guessing you might be in a place in the world where you're on the other side of your day. Jan and I are just getting started with our day here. And just having a blast here, kind of talking about, in case you're joining us a little bit late, talking about Jan's journey in leaving the corporate world, reinventing yourself in your 50s, and launching a podcast. So, and for those who are online with us as well right now, the comments that you're submitting on LinkedIn, what I actually have to do and why I'm looking down right now, I don't want to be rude, but I want to explain this. I have to look down at my phone to see the comments, and then I'm able to read those back. So if you're watching right now, if you haven't left us a comment yet, do drop a comment below. Let us know where you're joining us from. And then if you have any questions on the subject of, kind of leaving a corporate role, starting your own business, you might be in the phase of thinking about a side hustle, or maybe you are a podcast listener, or maybe you're starting a podcast yourself, or you have a podcast. If you'd like to ask any questions of Jan about going through that process, definitely drop those up on screen. And what I'd like to mention as well is if you'd like me to put your comment up on screen, you have to actually go off of LinkedIn and go into Facebook. But if you go into facebook.com/Meller Marketing and find this live video, you can actually submit a question there, and then I can pop your comment back up on screen. So I'll look for those in case any of you are watching. It'll take about probably a 30-second to 1 minute delay for those to pop up back on screen. So Jan, let's get back to the subject at hand here. So now that you are about 1.5 years through this journey and really just on a great trajectory for your career here, looking back, what would you have done differently? Is there anything you would have done differently in the process?
Yeah, I think I would have started to talk more and really put myself out there more as a thought leader on leadership earlier on.
Okay.
I wish I'd gotten over myself faster.
Yeah.
That fear of judgment. I wish I had pushed through that barrier. That would have been great. But then again, it's a process, right? It's a learning process. And you told me, and I didn't really want to hear that.
Yeah, because you want to be instantly there, and
you establish your brand and you put your voice out there on social media. So yeah, I would have liked to. I could have shortcut that a little bit, I think.
So how would you have done anything differently though? Because I think that is part of and I struggle with the same thing myself. It's like having the confidence in yourself. And I think a bit of this is when you've been in a corporate environment for so many years, 20, 30 years, and then leaving it, you've been kind of in this process for so long. You understand the guardrails that are, that you are working within. And then when you're out of it, I remember one of the things I did early on is when I decided my brand color, I decided it was going to be pink. And I had someone I showed a proposal to early on, and I said, "What do you think?" And she said, "It's too much pink. Men are not going to like it. It's not a good professional corporate color. You should use blue instead." And I was like this close to changing it to blue because, what I specialize is on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's color is blue. And I was this close, and I said, you know what, I'm going to keep it. And now if you look around, everywhere I go, I've got a pink mouse. I've got a pink coffee mug. Everywhere I go, I incorporate color. But I had to kind of shed my corporate knowledge and skin, if you will, and start to be comfortable with being in my own skin and being, outside of that a little bit. So, for you, Jan, if you were to give yourself advice to help you to get there faster, what would you tell yourself, or what would you do?
It's all, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You know, you're gonna get some comments that people aren't gonna like you. I know, and I knew from day one I was not for everybody. And I love red and black. Those are my colors. I love AC/DC. I just do. And it comes
Yeah.
through with the gothic feel to the lettering of the brand. It's who I am. And people like you had that same advice. People told me in the beginning, oh, that's too much. You know, again, somebody told me it should be blue. And I'm
Right.
like, oh hell no. I am not gonna have a blue corporate logo. That's not who I am. That's not what this is all about. So getting over that fear, I think is really important. You know, you are who you are, and either you do it or you don't do it
Right.
halfway. Either you know, my tagline is, one of the taglines I use a lot is, dream more and fear less.
Yes. Yes. And I
And
love,
that's
I
it.
mean, I'm putting your website up on screen. If you guys aren't checking this out already, you got to go to her website because it's a really cool, inspirational, just her approach. I just love it. And it's not just the branding, it's the words, it's the inspirational quotes, it's the can-do attitude, and just the, this, I love you got the dream it, brand it, own it, kind of process that you go through too. So let's kind of finish off by talking a little bit, Jan, about your business and who you work with. It looks like on your website here, I know you do public speaking, you also do some workshops and individual executive coaching as well. Is that right? So can you tell us a little bit about what you do and who you work with?
Yeah, corporate teams primarily. So I will engage with a company that is looking to go through some type of change. They may be adding some global complexity to the business. They may be going through some sort of transformation. And I work with the leadership team and help them break through the barriers and get them where they need to be. I also help them. I do a workshop that talks about vision and objectives. So we're great at objectives workshops in the corporate world, but really stepping back and visualizing what the future could be.
Yeah.
That's something that we don't do. And I just wrote a blog on that. There's so much power behind that. So I love to do that kind of work, but it's individual coaching element that's part of that. But I don't focus, specifically on like an executive team coaching by the hour kind of thing. It's
Okay.
all about the team, because it's all
Gotcha.
about how people interact and lead together. And then the other part of my business, as you know, is keynote speaking, which I love. I am completely in a state of flow when I'm up there on stage. I have no conscious thought about what's happening around me. It's me and the
Don't
audience.
you love it?
And
Yeah.
I just absolutely love keynote speaking. And then I love to get people moving and dancing, as you know, and you've seen on some of the videos.
I've not seen you speak live, Jan. I've got to try to catch you. Are you going to be anywhere in Metro Detroit in the next couple months here where I could catch you live?
I am, but they're all private events. But I will absolutely let you know as soon as, you know what, Brenda?
Yeah.
Maybe you and I should do like a live event sometime.
Wouldn't that be fun? Ooh. And
Like
I have
a
a
live
question from
conference.
someone kind of that we could think about incorporating. And this is somebody submitted a question on Facebook, and you and I have some similarities in that we were both corporate employees, and then we both started our own business, and there's some risk at play there. And this, Anita asked the question. Let's see if I can. I'm going to remove this. Let's see if that works a little bit better, and then pop this. Trying to get the view so it's not blocking us here. But so Anita is saying, left corporate, certainly understanding that relationship with money, and you don't receive a paycheck every 2 weeks. When you go into your checking account on Friday, there's not going to be that surplus of money that's in there like there was before. So Jan, can you tell us about, any advice kind of on that subject of relationship with money, and now that you're not living
Yes.
dependent upon an employer paycheck, but you're living dependent upon your own ability. So advice that you've learned that you could share with others.
Well, this is an excellent question. And I love the way that Anita has put that. She had to work on redefining her relationship with money. And it goes back to understanding your values, what's important to you. And I was that corporate person that loved the designer clothes, the bag and the shoes and the dresses, and went to the nice restaurants and the country club. And then I had to question, is that really who I am? And I can appreciate all those things, and I'm glad that I've experienced them. But at the end of the day, I'm a Welsh farmer's daughter who loves leadership and who loves inspiring people.
Right.
That's it. So when you understand that, then it's easy to cut all those things out of your life. And, for my daughter, I had to talk to her and tell her that the vacations in Europe and they're going to Somerset and buying what you want. Right. Those days are gone.
Right.
And she was all on board. She was all in. And I don't know. I'm not going to say, am I much happier? Everybody says that. No, I'm much happier.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm certainly happy doing it. I was happy buying those things. I'm happy not buying those things. It's all good.
It is a bit different, but I think, part of another kind of one of the perspectives I learned, and one of the reasons early on that I really decided this is the path I want to stay, is when you work for a company, yes, you get a paycheck that's coming in every 2 weeks, and you do get benefits and free coffee and cake when it's somebody's birthday, all these wonderful, great things. But then there's also the, you are not really in control of your career. Your employer is in control of your career, how long you stay in that career with that company. So there's that part of it. And the other part of it is your income is really controlled, unless you work in a sales role and it's commission and you can drive more commission sales that are coming in. But if you do a good job working for the company, maybe you get a couple percentage increase, maybe you get a year-end bonus. If the company's doing well, you keep your job, you get promoted, maybe you get more money over time. When you work for yourself, it's really cool, because if this month, if I want to make more money, all I need to do is book more clients. And if next month, if we're planning a family vacation and I need to scale things back, I can do that, and I don't have to ask for time off. But I do need to understand how to kind of steer my income so that it's not impacting my family's finances. But again, going back to the earlier point, when you work for yourself, your income has no ceiling. Think about that for a second. When you work for an employer, you know what's coming in your checking account every 2 weeks, because you know what that salary level is. When you work for yourself, you can increase that. And the only ceiling I found is the ceiling I impose on myself, which is up in here, and I still struggle with it. And right now I'm actually facing a whiteboard across the room. And I know, Jan, you're probably really big in affirmations and inspiration and things like that.
Yes.
I have a revenue goal that I write up on my board. And I did this last year. And it was a stretch goal. It was like really hard, but it was like a monthly goal. When I get there, I'm promoting myself. And I did that last year and I promoted myself. And I've got my next one on the board. And 2 months in a row, I've just been a couple thousand shy of it. So I'm getting to that point, but I know my only cap is what's up here. It's not right but there's been months too where I like to say they've been soft months. It sounds a little better than
challenging. Okay. I mean, like you will know, there's ups and downs. And when I got my first revenue check, the value of that check, I spent more on shoes in 1 year in my corporate job than that check, right? But that check was so much more meaningful to me.
Yeah.
I took it into the bank personally because my bank has been, with me every step of the way. And I took it in there. And I even took a photograph of it, and I sent it to the CEO of the bank, and we did a high five, right?
Oh, that's cool. Did you?
I said, "Hey, I got my first revenue check." Oh my!
I mean, it is. It's like the little things that when restaurants open and they have like the first dollar they earned framed and put in a plaque.
All by myself.
We need to celebrate. Yeah, we need to celebrate those successes. So I think we got to give this some thought. Maybe there's a roadshow opportunity for us. Something we could speak together here in Metro Detroit. So I want to finish this off because we're getting close to the end of the hour, and just see if there's been a couple of additional folks that have commented and come online. So let's see here. I think we said hi to Caroline already. Caroline, hi, in case I missed you earlier. Renata, it's so nice to see you online. Renata says, thank you, Jan, for sharing your story. So Renata, make sure that you are following. I put Jan's LinkedIn URL up on screen. Sahal, hello. Thank you for joining us. Antoinette, nice to see you. Antoinette's a fellow in forum member. Great topic. And she loves the When I Grow Up experience. So great to see you online there. Don Habrick says, careers never end. They just evolve into another learning experience. Do something fun and passionate. Don's a great guy. Thank you so much for joining, Don. It's nice to see your name online. Ashraf says, hello. Sweta says, good to see you guys. Sweta's up in Toronto, and I'm going to be interviewing her. She's a career expert, so we'll be having some conversations soon. And Anita says, for you, Jan, excellent interview of leaving Planet Corporate to live your passion full time. For me, I had to redefine my relationship with money. I think she put this on Facebook and on LinkedIn as well. So thank you for leaving that. And then Uduak, who was on, I think he was on Courtney's webinar with us earlier in the week, says hello. So nice to see you. Latanya Jones, hello from Detroit. She says she can relate to a reinvention in the season of 50 plus. Kudos to you, Jan. And we have Summer that's waving from Texas, so we'll wave back here. Scott is saying hi from Royal Oak. Sweta, we were talking about color, and she says, what's the worst that could happen? Just a color. My brand color is Aqua Burstone. And then Arcot is joining us as well, says, hey, Brenda and Jan. So I think we're going to kind of wrap here. So Jan, I just want to say thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure watching your journey online and learning from you. And I mentioned to you when we were talking before the show, I'm dabbling in the idea of moving my LinkedIn Live recorded sessions into a podcast. So I might be reaching back out to you again in the future and asking you for some advice.
Happy to help.
Yeah, great. So Jan, if people want to get a hold of you, can they connect with you on LinkedIn? Should they go to your website? Where can we go to learn more about?
Yeah, connect to me on LinkedIn, or go to my website, gravitasdetroit.com, and tune in to Finding Gravitas podcast.
Awesome. And we can find that on all of the major podcast channels, but I think also on your website. You
can indeed. And
the great thing, guys, is when you're working with technology, sometimes we will experience things like what we're experiencing today. And I'm not sure if Jan is, oh, there she's moving again. It may be my Wi-Fi connection, it might be Jan's, but you know, we don't make mistakes, do we, Jan? We just have learning experiences, right?
That's exactly right. Lots of them, and we love it.
It's all good. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Jan, so much for joining us. Hey, let's try to do a virtual high five. Let's put your hand over here. There we go. Virtual high five for you there. It's hard, isn't it?
I can't do that. What?
We'll wave at each other. Let's just wave, shall we? There you go. We got it.
Okay, that's the stupidest thing I've done in a long time, but hey, whatever.
Hey, it's all in good fun. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you happen to watch this in the playback, if you have any questions for Jan about kind of the journey to entrepreneurship, about podcasts, or if you'd like to learn more about her series, drop a comment below and give this a like on whatever channel you're watching on. And we'll have a great day and see you guys all soon. Thanks again, Jan. Take care and have fun in Chicago.
Brenda.